Hey, Gomes! Yo, Gomes! Yo, Jeffrey! Gomes!
What?
Hey, look here. This here's James. Now, do me a favor. Why don't you show him around, tell him the TV rules, show him the games and stuff, okay?
How much you gonna pay me? How much? I'd be doing your job.
$5,000, my man. That enough?
5,000?
I'll wire a check to your account as usual.
$5,000. $5,000.
$5,000.
I'll give him the deluxe mental hospital tour.
My man.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's FlavorBot here. I'm doing a quick one today, hopefully, that we're just going to be checking out Gemini real quick, first impressions, and then I'll do more of a deep dive. But I actually really like Gemini for screenwriting, and I'll kind of go in how I set it up real quick, and then I'll do a little bit more really quick before we get into this prompt. I'll just show you what I do in regards to how I'm going to set up my files, because I've mentioned it in a few videos, but I'm going to go through really quick and just show you what each one looks like. We've talked about them in previous videos, but this is just in case. This is just in case you haven't watched all those old videos that kind of go through how to set up these files. And if you want to know how to set them up quickly, you can watch the other videos. There's like one about character templates. There's one about creating treatments and log lines and all that. And this all started from a very simple log line. So real quick, just because I noticed it was a little confusing in the video, where I'm going to do this real quick. We're in Google AI Studio using Gemini 1.5 Pro. There is the Gemini chatbot, and that looks like this. This is over here. And you get like 2 months of this for free. But just remember, it's Google. You'll want to turn off any like tracking, whatever you're putting on there, they're going to be looking at most likely. Even if they say they aren't, I would wager they're looking at it. I mean, you can just create a blank profile or something like that. Burner for writing your crazy stuff if you want to. And then the other thing is when you're importing, you do that here, and you'll put like image, video, audio. You can import video up to an hour. One thing I will tell you is when you import folder, I've had issues. So I always import the files themselves. As you see down here, I had issues, so I just imported the files. And then if you're ever trying to import from Drive, I've noticed that has issues as well. So if you're trying to import a video, don't upload it to Drive first, just upload video and have it in there. And then we'll go into stuff like that later. But I just know that we're in Google AI Studio. That's aistudio.google.com, not gemini.google.com. But we are using Gemini. And this is the whole interface. But I'm zoomed in for the rest of the video. So I just wanted to give you that so that you can see the whole thing. And then, oh yeah, the other thing, make sure you save your stuff when you're done. It's not like Gemini where it's gonna save the stuff, or ChatGPT or Claude. This is more like a workshop type environment. So just keep that in mind. And then as you're going, you can modify this if you wanna get like experimental and start doing your stuff, but when we get into the prompt. So, all right. All right, and real quick, we're just gonna go through this. And like I said, just go watch the other videos if you wanna know how to make these files. First, we'll go through just kind of how I set it up. So I put all my concept files, and you can put more in here, and I do, depending on what I'm doing, but I'm just kind of messing around with a new one for Gemini. I start small, and then I build, because I don't wanna overload it with information, you know? So I got those concept files in here, and then they're just standard files that you go in, and if you click, they would have all that info that we've made. So, and I'll put these up on the GitHub. So look in the description and you'll see links for those concept files. You can go find those now. And then if you look, this is where all my character templates and everything are. And then I've also put like the screenplay so far. And then I'll just barely touch on this for a moment, but I did end up going world as a character. And I think that's going to help us in the writing, but I was experimenting with it later, but I think this will work. So if you do world as a character, which is you just create the world and it, think like Rapture and BioShock or whatever.
Rapture. City where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small.
It's like the world is its own character. We put that in here so that, and we'll explain why later. So that's what this looks like, and I just have it set up like this, and then I feed all those in. These are the files we're going to be using, just to clarify. So I would set it up like this so that you can organize, and then your other writing projects, you just put in other projects. or, you know, I just put Legrant here to illustrate, but I have all my other stuff in here. So, all right, back to the Gemini. So, all right, guys, so coming back over here now, because we have all that, I'm going to come in, and this is the interesting thing. Here's a couple of interesting things that I really like about Gemini, even though it's Google. I know, whatever, everything's tied into it, and you're using Google account when you're using all this other stuff. Like, you're not going to get away from Google with this AI stuff, with DeepMind. This is what I find very interesting. Google's the one that tells us, that lets us do this after their whole thing with the pictures, you know, we all know what happened there. So now they say, hey, adjust how likely you are to see responses that could be harmful. Content is blocked based on probability that it's harmful. Well, I put it to block none. And I don't have to do any kind of fancy, goofy prompting. It's coming out straight up. Somebody asked me in the comments, hey, is this going to lecture me? This one's not going to lecture you, okay? So let's get into the prompt. This is system instructions. Our whole dynamic's going to change here, guys, because I've kind of been keeping it as like 0 shots and stuff, rather than going into the advanced prompting that I think we all should really be doing. And it's, you know, we talked about it in the advanced prompting video, that there are these different methods of prompting that can amp up like the way these language models are, like how good they are. And if you get into like running them with like the API and stuff and doing agentic AI.
Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? I was. Look again.
It gets insane. We're not doing that for screenwriting because I don't pay money like yet to do it. I am creating an agentic screenwriting workflow, but I don't want to just sit there and like burn money on that.
Maybe you knew I was going to do that. Maybe you didn't.
Because I can do it like this and it's great. So what we're doing is, now that we're getting into it, here's the prompt. So and I think it's really good, honestly. The writing, it's comparable, I think, to Claude when you get it set up, because once you get it set up, you could write in GPT-3. We want this thing hallucinating, but we want it hallucinating within reason.
I find myself on the planet Ogo, part of an intellectual elite, preparing to subjugate the barbarian hordes on Pluto. But even though this is a totally convincing reality for me in every way, nevertheless, Ogo is actually a construct of my psyche.
And that's where the agentic stuff is going to get very interesting, because we're going to have like managers that control everything and keep everything in line, like we have to do.
One thing at a time. I think I can get management to see who's coming to my party tonight.
We're afraid we can't.
What are you doing, staying in, washing your hair?
But we still want to be involved in writing our screenplays. So what we do, I'll give you the prompt as well. Keep it shorter too. So you give it system instructions, and we're giving it its tasks very clearly. In the past, I've kind of done these big, broad, one-shot prompts that I kind of think that if you give it extra flavor in there, it can, for writing, it's going to help you. But now we're going to trim it down to like the bare bones, because we can actually test in here. I'll do another video where we go deep diving on this. Let's just keep this simple for first impressions. So I've only used it for a day. So but I've been also messing with Octopus, which is pretty interesting. But that's not for screenwriting. But you will receive a treatment. So I say you're my assistant. Your task is to write scenes in proper screenplay format with compelling dialogue, good pacing that moves the plot forward in a skillful way. Okay, we've seen this before, but we're just giving it the master instructions to the system. And then we're going to give it like sub instructions that are telling it you will receive a treatment that will have much more information about the story than the beat sheet. Let's change this, because this should have been up there. And so I'm going to take that out, put it here. And it could have been out of order, I'm sure. But we're just giving it the basic stuff, because you know all the structure, and you saw now that structure. And so now I'm telling it what it's getting. You'll receive a beat sheet that will outline very quickly the beats of the story. You will also receive a treatment with much more information. And it says this is a map from start to finish of the story. You will also receive the concept files to understand the nuances of narrative writing. It knows what that means, because they all have concept in the name. And then it says you receive a screenplay with the story so far. Copy the tone of the screenplay for all scenes created. This is great if you want to just get going on it and you're like, look, I don't want it to copy somebody else's style. I have my own style. So kind of get your first few scenes written, and then even have like if you have to write your character's first scene, like, so you really get that flavor of your character.
A very special time and place to be a part of. But no explanation. No mix of words or music or memories can touch that sense of knowing that you were there and alive in that corner of time in the world.
Like Legrant, do it yourself. Write all the dialogue yourself and tell it, hey, copy this. And so I also told it you will receive character templates, which are the files, and you know what those are the files with names of the characters like Legrand and Beyonce and everything else. And this is going to be how your writing is going to, we're going to refine this as we write these screenplays and stuff. And it'll get better and better and better, I'm sure. So as we figure this out, do not simply spit out character template details. Use these in whatever is occurring in the story, as well as analogical reasoning, counterprompting, DSP, and red teaming to craft dialogue. So just like we did in the previous videos. So now we've got all that, everything we've ever done on this channel. These are all huge concepts that we had to explain.
Right now, you and I are at the center of everything.
And I think we really did have to go into them in detail. Now it's just like this. You've got all of these files now. I reiterated this again, what I wanted it to do, because I'm still kind of figuring it out. So this is a test, as you can see. And so I gave it all that. It started writing scenes, and then I said continue, because I also originally I was telling it to continually write story to see how well it did that, but I quickly changed it. So as you can see, it only gave one thing, quick one, and then so we're going to close system prompt so we can see this. This is my one fault with Gemini. If anybody knows if I can change this, I don't like this blue. I wish I could change that. Google, please change that. Let me change the color of this. I just want it all black or gray or whatever. So Legrand, so we go through and it starts spitting out good stuff. It actually starts spitting out bad stuff. It initially misunderstands Echo because I had the system instructions wrong. So I changed it, and then I told it was clunky and reinforced. Now, this is something I'm going to keep telling you guys. Keep telling it what you want it to do. If it gets it wrong, it's because of the nature of large language models and how it works. Like, they do hallucinate, and this temperature here, this means it's very creative. Now, in time, or when we get pro, I haven't gotten pro yet, I probably will. You can bring the temperature down so that it just follows your instructions clearly. That, like, if you're doing, that's how you do it over in the agent stuff. And for your managers and your planners and stuff like that. This is fairly clunky is what I tell it. And then this is when I noticed this. And it says sexually explicit. And I'm like, okay, well, it's getting it wrong anyways. And then I found these.
And the opportunities they offer.
And the opportunities they offer. Ooh, they really dosed you, Jim.
So remember, if you have something that's a little bit more explicit or whatever, just turn this off and you'll be fine. So Gemini, that's a point for Gemini. Over everything. Over Claude. Over GPT. I mean, not over open source, because the open source stuff's not going to goof with you anyways. But over the big guys. Gemini, good job. So model, revised, continue, and then it kind of starts to get it a little. And then I tell it, let's rewrite this, and I fix a couple of changes, and I tell it about Zuck. I changed Zuck, who is Beyonce, which is Legrand's dead wife's brother, that he's a genetic engineer at the corporation where Echo was originally developed, because they do a lot of stuff. They're a big corporation, and he's been in an accident where he is now a snake in like a robot body that's like a plastic tube with like robot arms. That's what Zuck looks like. And he can also like hack stuff. So I like that. They threw that into the story. And then it started giving us, like we're used to seeing, like good, somewhat, and it's getting it right. Also, it's getting screenplay format right. A knock capitalized like this is understanding the format of a screenplay. Another point for Gemini. GPT does not do this right. And so it goes through. I had to kind of keep going. and I noticed that there was a mistake. So I fixed it, the counter prompt, remember guys? And I want to get down to this other last thing before we get into, and then we'll just kind of wrap it up. Because this will probably be, I want to keep it shorter. And you already know all these techniques. So this is just how to switch over to Gemini if you're interested for this reason. If Claude or GPT is ever giving you too much issues, or you run into the, what do you call it? The limit, the daily limits. What is with this? It's insane. I'm hitting the limit on Claude, GPT, and I hit it on Gemini yesterday. I talked about it on Twitter. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, if you go over there and follow me, I don't really do that much, but I'll get more active over there. But these daily limits are annoying. I pay for this. I kind of want more than whatever. I feel like when I'm talking to Clyde, because it's got a lot of information, I barely get like 15 messages before it's like, hey, we can't talk anymore. It's like, Clyde, don't do this to me, bud. Anthropic, don't go the way of OpenAI, please. I know NVIDIA... Wait, who is it? NVIDIA owns a lot of Anthropic, I think. Ask Anthropic about an NVIDIA card, and it's going to give you an advertisement. So, let's see. So it goes through, and I fix it. I say, Legrant should be hard-boiled, and it gets it better. And we just have it kind of go through. And I'll show you real quick, because we've kind of got it dialed in. Okay, cool. And so then just to give you the writing comparison versus like Claude, which you've seen in the other videos, it gets better writing than GPT, which is a little clunky. So this is just, think of this as right after the scene that we were making in that one video, which is just Legrant's in the bar. He gets the job. He goes back to his house. He's there. He took the Sumatran, and it's called R69 now, I think. It's a research chemical if you're new to the channel. So he took some R69, and then Zuck shows up with some food because Zuck's his dead wife's brother who cares about Legrant, okay? And then he slithers in with the pizza. How are you doing tonight, Legrant or whatever? And he's like, hey, just got back from talking to Rando. He's like, Rando, huh? That's never a good sign. He wants to find a girl, and he's like, what's the girl's story? Dame goes missing, Rando wants her found. Same old song and dance. It's still a little clunky. I still like GPT's dialogue a little better. Or not GPT, Clyde's dialogue a bit better. But Clyde has been so refined at this point. Once I get Gemini refined and get it to tell me its real name, then it's going to be, I think, just as good as Claude, if not better. I'm not sure yet, but Gemini does seem like it could be the most advanced when you get down to it. If you get into all of this over here, and I don't know how much the API stuff is going to cost yet, but we'll see. And obviously DeepMind's been at this for a while. So it kind of goes through and says, Dame goes missing. And he's like, Tech Underworld, you said. Maybe I could lend a hand. My new hardware lets me slither through databases like nobody's business. And so it knows he's a snake. And so he's got a kind of lighthearted thing about it. He's like, yeah, I can't see how a glorified worm on wheels is going to be much help, but knock yourself out. And then Zuck plugs into the system. Hey, I'm still packing some serious processing power here. Besides, someone's got to keep an eye on you. Make sure you don't fall asleep at the wheel and wake up in a ditch. And so this is from the character template. So the only ditch I'm worried about is the one they'll bury me in. This one stinks, Zuck. Randall wants me to take her to grid 4, which is actually might be how we go. Like it actually comes up with a pretty cool concept for what's going on in the next scene, and I'll show you that here shortly. So grid 4, are you serious? That's a suicide mission, even for you. Tell me something I don't know. Grid 4 initially was the whole city, but I might change that because it's adding new elements. And that's the thing I really enjoy about writing with AI, is that it does give me things that I can either like choose to kind of go down or not.
Some angry Rotarian shoves you and you think, what's happening here? What's going on? When you hear yourself mumbling.
Don't expect to pull. No fault of mine.
Like the paths to go down or not. So it's very interesting. You're right, for that reason. So grid 4, are you serious? That's a suicide mission. Tell me something I don't know. So, but Rando's got me by the short hairs, as usual. He's made it clear that refusing isn't an option. This girl, she must be up to something big. Yeah, I'm just a chump holding the key ring. Let's just hope it doesn't blow up in my face. That line's not great. Zuck, he's scanning the chip or something that he got. So this is weird. There's nothing on her. No ID, no history, no digital footprint. It's like she doesn't exist. And in this world, like the androids are going to have like some kind of blockchain identifier type thing. So she should be tracked everywhere she goes. But it's not working. Or someone's gone to a lot of trouble to make sure she doesn't. This just got a whole lot more interesting. Count me in, Legrant. And she's the one that did that. So I don't know much. So this is what I needed to change. And so I kind of told it, like, make him like Q from James Bond. That's what Zuck's going to be. Just think of it as like he's this gadget guy who's going to be outfitting Legrant with this tech because he got a big settlement from the company for getting turned into a snake or something. You know, so he's got a lot of money and he's got a lot of tech now and he hacks into stuff. And that's going to be a little bit of an overlap with Echo's hacking ability, but he's going to be like blown away by it. It's going to be, it'll work. Because Echo is more like a shapeshifter, femme fatale type thing. That I don't know if she's exactly Legrant's ally. Well, we don't know in the story, but Zuck is considered a true and true ally. So he's like, this got a whole lot more interesting than Legrant. Count me in. A flicker of pain crossing his face as he remembers Beyonce, Zuck's sister, in the love of his life, lost in the line of duty. This really shouldn't be in here. But I guess for like us to read it, like this is something to make the read more enjoyable, and you can do that, but I wouldn't recommend it. We're writing screenplays for AI to make one day, so we don't need this extra fluff in here anyways. But maybe we do. So a quick aside. So, and actually maybe they just leave this because often things are going to get changed in the way we format or whatever. So if you're planning to make movies with AI and like Sora or whatever, I don't even know that it's even necessary for you to learn screenplay formatting in regards to a big caveat here, taking it over to like Celtex or Studio Binder and actually putting it into that format, because we're likely going to be feeding this over to other AI to do stuff with. So it doesn't matter that it's in like a rich text format versus plain text format.
Stop! How would anyone believe such a horrible thing?
What's so horrible? I believe it. Nothing's perfect. Nothing lasts forever. It's nothing to worry about if you really think about it.
But that's your choice. I still do it just because I want to rewrite it, and that's a way for me to sit and like the AI stuff and rewrite, which is nice. That's the only reason, but there's other stuff where you can kind of modify on the fly. Take that as you will. So you can run support on, and back to it. So you can run support on this one, Zuck. I don't think your new wheels are cut out for the Tenor Basic Grid 4. Besides, I need someone watching my back. Don't worry, I'll be your. And then Zuck grins. I hate when people grin in screenplays, but it works here, I guess. So Zuck grins and opens up a compartment on his robotic body, revealing a sleek, compact drone. And so he's got like a drone that's going to follow Legrant around. Don't worry, I'll be your eyes and ears out there. This little guy will stick to you like glue, streaming everything back to me. Just try not to get shot down. One more thing, don't worry. This is why I don't like blue, by the way, Google, is because I'm sitting here and like it doesn't stand out as much when I do this on blue. Blue on blue doesn't work. So, Legrant eyes the drone with suspicion. One more thing to worry about. Just keep the chatter to a minimum, Zuck. I need to focus. I understand. Be careful out there. And so Zuck's actually trying to keep an eye on Legrant and make sure he doesn't get all fucked up on research chemicals because he sees them everywhere in the house. So I understand. Be careful out there, Legrant. For Bay, for all of us. And not that he's just trying to be like, hey, you can't do your research chemicals. Like Zuck's not like a teetotaler. He just doesn't want Legrant doing a bunch of research chemicals when he goes to Grid 4 and like in the most dangerous fucking thing that he can imagine. So he wants to tag along. And so it gets it wrong. They go to a bar. I don't want to double down on a bar scene. That's what I tell it here. And then actually, yeah, okay, cool. So I give it an updated treatment because I just had a few more ideas. And then this is something I'll cover real quick, which is another character template, if it's a experiment, and I think it's going to work well. So this is world as character. This is a concept in writing. The world is a character. Think, there's so many of them. I'm spacing them right now. The world this character is, well, Rapture in Bioshock. We mentioned Bioshock in a recent video. So Rapture in Bioshock is world this character. So it's a character all its own. So I created a character template for Grid 4, and then I told it when you have characters that you create that are random people, just use the Grid 4 character template to craft them a, you know, as an example, like this will influence who they are because Grid 4 is influencing who they are. And so essentially create like an on-the-fly character template to use when writing dialogue. Because I figured that would run into an issue that if there's like all these on-the-fly random characters that have no templates, maybe we run into the issue that it can't figure out what to do with their dialogue. So I tried to figure that out here. And we haven't had any instances yet, but I'll let you know how those experiments work. So it got it right, but it took him to like a warehouse or something. And I said, no, let's go to a rave. And this is going to be the last scene. I'll wrap it up here. But as you can see, as you go through, you can just keep refining it. You can add stuff and it gets better. Oh, and the really interesting thing, I should have said this earlier. It has 1 million token context. We're only at like 22,000. I could write the entire screenplay and be able to go back. On writing, they say like 500,000. It's going to be able to find everything within perfect like context. You know, we went through and then I said, hey, I want to turn this into like a rave scene. And just to show you that it is pretty good at being creative. He's like, got something. Digital ghost popped up on the mesh network. Looks like she's planning on attending some underground. I just said a rave. And so it's looking at all of our world and everything and then saying, hey, what would a rave be like in there? And what would Echo be doing at that rave is what I think is occurring. So Zuck's metallic body swivels in his hover chair. His eyes glued to that multiple screens, and he says, hey, I got something. She's going to be at this thing called Synaptic Symphony. He's like, a rave, figured she'd be more down the type to hang in the data havens. No sweat, and not sweat it out with a bunch of goggle-eyed teenagers. And then he's like, don't underestimate the power of a good beat, Legrant. Zuck. As a snake, too, it's going to be funny. But weird. It's going to be a good screenplay. It's going to, whenever we get the ability to, like, truly bring Legrant to life.
The dream of hearing someone say these words when they really, truly mean them.
It's gonna, I think, be a good one. So Synaptic Symphony is known for its high-tech sensory experiences. Rumor has it they use experimental neural interfaces to sync with music directly to your brain. And that sounds cool to me. Sounds like a recipe for mass psychosis. Or a chance to get inside Echo's head, literally. If she's there, you might be able to connect with her on a deeper level. Just try not to get lost in the music. I've navigated worse hellscapes than a rave, Zuck. Just make sure your little eye in the sky keeps up. Don't worry, my friend. I'll be watching your every move. Now go get your groove on and bring back our girl. Let's hope this symphony doesn't turn into a requiem. So its dialogue is good. Much better than GPT. Very on par with Claude once you get it set up, and like the context limit, I haven't gotten it as built up as Clyde or whatever, but my Clyde has gotten so slow because I keep doing this stuff and I keep adding in stuff, and now it has to look at all of it, and then it's still really good. I write a lot in Clyde, so it's me, Clyde, Claude, but my writing Claude wants to be called Clyde. I don't want to die in the robot apocalypse, so I do what he says. All right, and so yeah, so that's probably where I'll call it, because it's just going to be the first impressions. I'll do more of a deep dive on all the various like stuff over here, because you can get a lot more advanced in Gemini and get a lot more control. So I'll see you guys next time, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, like the video, and take it easy.
All about connections, Quinn. Wires, wireless, weaving a world wide web. Can't get anything if you're disconnected. Voila! I tell you what, all this manual work's given me a thirst. You've not got a beer for a working man, have you?